you for joining us today. Excited to have Damon here to talk about protection. Might not be the top of mind for most owners or any of your in management, but it's something that it can be important when it's needed, right? It's not important until it's needed, right, Damon? And we want to get ahead of it. Got a lot of questions for you. And I mean, in fact, let's just jump into it. Our whole goal with these is like, let's make sure everyone here leaves today with a couple of golden nuggets around protection, around claims, how to really serve their customers in a way when usually it's not a fun situation, right? Like, tell me about protection. Tell me about why someone would want to consider protection for their stuff.
So the thing about tenant protection that has become, well, you know, I don't want to say fought against it, but, you know, I've been in storage, you know, going on 16 years now. And I, you know, when I was part of developing StoreSmart tenant insurance and growing this great program, we went against protection all the time. And it was the idea of what protection was at that time and how it was being offered. And there were missing spots to what protection is. And I mean, there are things that I didn't know. And then when I ended up leaving the insurance industry, I was able to get together with some protection companies and start really understanding and learning that there are aspects of it that are not, it's not a negative. You know, tenant protection is an amazing product. I mean, as far as the claims process, you know, it's not an insurable product. It looks and feels like insurance, but it's not. It's similar to, I guess you can say, a warranty. However, you know, the one thing about warranties, everybody wants to go, well, yeah, you know, Costco, Best Buy, Walmart, Amazon, you know, and then you may or may not have something covered, right? But when it comes down to it, when it's tenant protection, the insurance companies that we are backed by, the goal is when a claim happens, you get it taken care of. You get it taken care of in a timely manner, and you use more common sense about how things are going to be covered. So the reason people do protection is many things. It's the fact that you have a much easier claims process. It's the fact that you have a higher percentage of claims that get paid. It's you can make a higher amount of revenue. However, I will tell anybody, you don't do these programs just for revenue. And there should be a service piece to it. And it's, you know, and a lot of people don't want to have to go through insurance licensing. Not that, you know, insurance licensing is not a pain in the neck, but it can be a pain in the neck. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where, you know, some people don't want to have to fill out and give all this information or give fingerprinting or, you know, have to give aspects of their company. They just want to be able to offer a product, make sure that the tenants are being taken care of. And that is the key. If you are with a quality tenant protection program, I just realized I need to button this, quality tenant protection program, you want to be with a company that actually has your tenant's best interest in mind. And with tenant protection done right, you not only get the tenants protected, you protect your managers, you are putting them in a process where the claims are more cut and dry, and it's a simpler claims process. So those are just a few of some of the reasons. And then again, it depends. Like for me, you're dealing with me and my team. So I give long-winded answers. I think I warned you of this. With how we work at Storage Shield, the whole idea is I took 11 years of what I did with tenant insurance and I built that around and reconstructed what we have with the tenant protection program. It's not that I dislike insurance. I don't. I believe that there is a need for insurance, and I don't think all regulations are frustrating or they're bad. What I don't like is how the insurance industry, from a tenant insurance platform, has used regulations, I don't think in an overly positive way, where it's more about how can we ensure that this isn't a covered loss. And I'm not saying everyone does this, but the claims that I've been hearing come across the last 6 months, there's questions on, well, this should have been a claim. Well, no, the certificate of insurance states this little area says that it's not. And it's like, well, that's a gray area. Well, that's why people don't like insurance, right? It's gray areas. Whereas when you have protection, you can look at it and go, well, yeah, that's a burst pipe. It doesn't matter if it causes flood. It's a covered loss, and here's how it's covered, and here's how it looks. And this is how we're going to make sure that it gets paid.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if I'm a tenant and the pipe bursts and my stuff is destroyed, I just want a good customer experience. I've been paying into my protection plan. I want my stuff well, if I can't be salvaged, right? I want the money to go and buy what I used to have, right? It's already a crappy
Yeah,
situation. I'm already dealing
yeah.
with a loss of my stuff. Now I've got to deal with pulling my hair out if I don't get a good customer experience. So if I am an owner operator, and let's say I'm not doing protection. Let's say I'm not even talking about insurance protection or anything. I'm just have my tenants come, trying to give a great experience to them, but I just really haven't thought about this. What do I need to be thinking about as an owner or operator around protection, and where does it come in? And when do I talk to someone about this? When do I tell my tenants about this? How do I introduce this?
So the enrollment process is simple. I mean, again, 11 years with insurance, 2 years now with protection, so 13 years. So a track record has been created of how this can be successful. First and foremost, I will say this: claims are emotional, right? So from an ownership standpoint, it comes down to a few things. When an issue arises, or when a situation, a claim, am I prepared? That's what owners first and foremost need to look at. Am I prepared? What do I need to do to be prepared? What are the process? What are the questions? Like, how do I go about doing this? And is doing insurance or protection something that I want to do? Well, it comes down to what you're looking to get out of it. If it's simply money, then I'm going to tell you, yeah, you can do that. But I mean, we have a situation in one of the states in the United States right now where because a company was doing it strictly for money and they ended up doing the wrong thing, and you're not allowed to offer protection in that state right now, because it wasn't done properly. So you want to make sure that, am I prepared? And if I'm not prepared, how can I be prepared? Do I need training? What are we getting involved in? Do I want to do insurance or protection? And there's some times where owners might want to do insurance over protection, and I understand that. But if you can get into a tenant protection program and you can work with someone who has experience taking care of customers, experience taking care of the facility, and it's a protection plan, well, you're going to make a little bit higher amount of revenue. Again, not the sole reason. But if you have everything else encompassing, so an owner looks at this and goes, okay, I want to start offering, how am I going to do it? Okay, well, this company offers a training program where they actually spend an hour or more per training. They offer retrains. Well, now my team or I am going to know how to offer it over the counter, online, over the telephone. And how it's offered is key, because it is not a sales process. It is about a conversation. And what I've always done is, and what we did with StoreSmart, which was really, it changed the industry when it came to insurance, is it should be a 3-minute conversation or less. There's a statement that is made. That statement then leads you down the path of either someone taking it, providing their own proof, or opting out. And the way to do this correctly is you need to have a requirement. Every lease says, let's say this, base lease agreement requires our tenants have their goods insured. Will this amount for this amount of coverage be enough for you? Every lease says that you're responsible, that a tenant has to have something on file. More times than not, a facility will not allow it to be offered, or they'll just kind of be very passive because they don't want to lose a rental. But if you lose a rental and then a claim happens, to someone that does have the insurance, well, you lost the rental, I get it. But if someone had the right coverage and they had a claim, well, all of a sudden, if they had $1,500, $2,000 worth of loss, you have an incredibly happy tenant. Whereas if someone who just didn't want it, decided not to rent, went down the street, rented at another facility, they were allowed to rent, they had an issue, all of a sudden they're going back to that facility saying it's their fault, they have to make it whole, I want you to give me rent, I want you to pay for my belongings. And the owner operators put in this frustrating situation. And these programs are not negative. You're not doing wrong by your tenants. The best comment I can say is anybody who goes, well, I don't think we need to, it's too much money. We all have to take a step back and remember that we're charging tenants for air. So if a tenant is renting a 5x10 at $70 a month, what are they getting? They're getting air that someone's going to put their belongings in. So now someone who trusts you to store their goods, you're going to suggest that they don't need to have them protected. Whether you think they're valuable or not doesn't matter. It's what the tenant believes the value
that's
is.
what it comes down to, right? It's not so much about the retention and creating the great customer experience, which you want to give, but as an owner, I want to protect my brand reputation, right? So if that pipe break because there's a freeze, and tenant loss of stuff. If the protection wasn't in place, now as an owner, I'm getting all the negative energy, and then now they're going to spread negative energy around my brand when I could have just had something in place where, as an owner, I don't really want to deal with protection. I want you to deal with protection, Damon. I want you to deal with all that, and I don't want to think about it. I want to know that my customer is going to be taken care of, that my brand isn't going to be hurt, because that tenant might move to another state, next week, and I want them to place their business with me at my other facilities in my other state, and I want to know that they're getting that consistent, service, and my brand is protected, and that, hey, Damon, you are doing your part while I get to do my part. I'm an owner. I don't want to worry about protection, but how do let me ask you, so if I say, hey, look, Damon, I get this. I'm understanding what you're saying. I want to start working with you, Damon. What is that going to look like? I'm going to call, I'm going to say, hey, Damon, I liked your presentation today. Where do we go from here? How does that look? Where does it go? Do I have
So there's a few ways you can get through to me. You'll have my contact info out of here, but we can, through our website, www.storage-shield.com, we have a section where you can go on inquiry and actually put a inquiry into, and then we would reach out to you. You can find me at almost every state or national show, word of mouth. I'm on social media, whether it be LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, or you can simply just email me. But we are pretty easy to get hold of. I had 7 calls yesterday with owners wanting to talk about kind of the ins and outs of what we do. So those are really the main ways to go about doing this.
Right. So
and if I can't, I'm going to take a quick step back. Okay, I do want to share one thing. The main reason an owner operator, how would they go about getting involved, or why would they want to do this?
Right.
I'm going to tell you the one scenario that I share a lot. I have a friend in the industry who had storage, or who has storage, was with an insurance program, and he had a burglary, and he had a guy on video that was going unit to unit, cutting locks, walking in and out of units with people's belongings. He had a claim, which was great because they had the insurance, and he went through the insurable process. Now, why do people want to do protection over something like an insurance program? It's because how are these claims or these certificate of insurances listed? This guy was on video, cutting a lock, taking belongings, walking away. The claim was denied because in the world of the insurance, they didn't have listed in their certificate of insurance that video was part of what made it a coverage loss. They told him they needed a cut lock to make it where it could be paid. So they told him it was denied. He called me. We had a discussion on it. I went, let me see the certificate. It made no sense to me. And then I read it and I went, well, okay, legally, the insurance company can deny that because they do not list or have it as an available option that if someone's on video. So it becomes kind of stupid, really. That's what it is. Whereas if you deal in these situations and it's more of a common sense, you look at it and go, well, yeah, we might ask for a lock, but also the proof of a cut lock would be the guy on video cutting said lock, right? So that's, to answer your first 2 questions, that's the reason someone would, and that's why they get into it.
Right. So I'm convinced, I'm ready, hey, and how does it work? I mean, you mentioned to me there's 2 contracts, one for the facility, one for the tenant.
So,
kind of do that a little bit.
To understand tenant protection, it's 2 contracts in one. So tenant protection is a contract between the facility and the tenant, and it's a contract between the facility and, in our case, storage shield, right?
Right.
So this is where, if the insurance industry is saying, hey, it's a negative, they want to point out, well, you got 2 different contracts, it can be confusing, you have an addendum, and they always want to go to, well, they're going to change the verbiage in your lease, and your lease is going to change. I know this because these are things that I used to say, right? And my whole thing was, you're not going to be supported by the state. That doesn't matter. You do have an addendum to the lease. So what the addendum for a protection program is, it's to protect the lease verbiage and protect your lease as an extra form of comfort, so that when someone gets enrolled, the owner is not put in the middle of a storm. So the 2 contracts in one, once that's figured out, you understand the language, the part of the addendum really kind of becomes a certificate of insurance because it shows you what is covered, it shows you what's not covered. They use some verbiage. Typically, most protection programs have verbiage like owner pays, owner's responsible. That's the gray area, right? That's the frustrating area for people looking at protection. It's this little thing called acknowledged negligence. Nobody wants to be negligent or be told that they're negligent for anything, especially with loss. It's a tough thing to do. But what you can do with certain protection programs, and there's a few of us that are doing this now, is you can actually have more of a transfer of risk, where you can have it where owner-operator is not even allowed to touch a claim, work with the claim, have anything to do with it. You have to transfer that back to the protection company. It's what we do with Storage Shield. We actually, owners aren't allowed to touch, make any decisions, have anything to do with it. It has to come back to us. Why? Because I know how these insurance claims happen. I know the process. And me and my team can actually take it from the beginning and run its course, make sure the tenant is taken care of. We let the tenant know that the owner operator has nothing to do with it, and we can handle the claim start to finish. And then within 3 to 5 weeks, you've had a decision made, a check cut. Sometimes there are frustrations, just like there are with insurance, where it's communication. You know, I have a tenant that we were getting ready to pay a claim, and all of a sudden they won't get back to us, which to me is still one of the most confusing things you can deal with, but it happens. So what'll happen is when they finally get back to us, we'll be able to reopen and just cut a check. But once that happens, once they decide that they want to become part of Storage Shield and they want to start offering, we actually will go over the addendum. I'm big on the transparent side. I will go over every document, every letter that gets sent to the tenant, the addendum. I will go over opt-out forms, ACH. We want to make sure that everyone knows start to finish, so that there's no surprises and there's no, hey, I wasn't told that scenarios. Right through into training. From the time someone signs the agreement with us and they're able to start offering, I typically try to make it somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 and 4 weeks. But that's just to make sure things are being done. If we're transferring or converting another insurance company's tenants over to our program, that takes a little bit of time. You have to make sure you're getting set up with the proper software, doing that correctly. And I don't want to put an owner operator in a bad position. So we make sure that we're very methodical with how we do things.
And that's what, I mean, it's owner operators, that's what we want. We want, hey, it comes down to trust, right? Do I trust that that protection is going to come through? B, that I'm not involved as an owner, you're taking care of it, Damon. And when I receive my customer back, like, hey, you know, it kind of stunk that had this loss, but it was great working with Storage Shield, it was great, and they continue to say great things about my brand and my brand reputation. Like, hey, not only do I store my stuff there, but when things happen on site, everything's taken care of, and we can move along our merry way. So when these claims come through, when something happens, the pipe breaks, there's theft, there's whatever. Walk me through that claims, not just the claims process, but what can I do as an owner to improve or be ready for those claims when they happen? How can I prepare my tenants for now that I'm offering Storage Shield? How do I prepare them for it? Claims are going to happen. Am I like, if one of my tenants call me, had something happen, do I just point them to you, or how does that work? Claims are coming up.
That's the way it needs to happen. So in advance, you know, precautions are always, you know, people always say, well, you know, flood, water, this, that. You know, what do we do? Well, always, if you have a concern, then, you know, when they're storing, use pallets, use something that raises them up a few inches off the ground. You know, take little precautions like that. If you're worried about, you know, mold or you know, humidity, then do the damp rid. I mean, stuff's going to happen. It's why these policies exist, right? It's not because, you know, something's going to happen if it ever does. The nice thing is when you're dealing with a company like Storage Shield, you know, we don't want you doing anything. Like all I'm going to ask is someone offer over the counter or online or over the phone. And when a claim happens, they're going to come directly to us. They're going to say, hey, good news is you have this coverage. Here's who you're going to deal with. They fill out a 1-page document, the tenant does, and then they're dealing with us one-on-one. But that's the most an owner operator should have to do. They're not agents for insurance, or they're not agents for the protection company. Like, these processes should be minimal at best. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's just enroll them and then let us take care of everything else. People build their facilities. So precautions, I mean, it's all normal common sense. Cameras, gates, you know, what is my humidity? What are the, you know, and they're all told when they get these, keep your temperatures between these numbers, right? So most companies and those owners take the right precautions, covering your belongings, I mean, it's all a lot of common sense. On our counter card that we have at every facility, we actually give tips on things to do. It's the same thing everyone does, though. It's not like we, recreated the wheel. It's common sense things that people need to do to protect their belongings when they're being stored. But at the same time, like, tenants are going to do what tenants are going to do. They're still going to move in the middle of a rainstorm and not cover their belongings.
Well,
You know what I
let's
mean?
talk a little bit about this, right? So I'm going to use a term that doesn't exist. It's a unicorn. It's not even going to ever happen, right? How do I create a zero loss facility? Which is don't have a facility, right? But you can't do
There's
it,
no
right?
such thing. You
It
can't
doesn't
do
make
it.
sense. How do I get as close to that as possible? We talked about this earlier, Damon. It's like gate access, having certain kind of locks, and people are like, well, these locks are really expensive. And you talked to me about like, well, what about a tech fee? So help me understand. Let's say I want the gate, I want the temperature control, I want these locks, but my goodness, the costs for me as an owner are starting to add up. How do I pass that cost to my tenants? How do I do this right? What have you seen? How do I work towards a zero loss facility? What do I do? Give me the ABCs.
So, I mean, you can take as many precautions as you want. The nice thing, like take, Noki, for instance. So Noki, I mean, there's a cost to it. It's very expensive. They'll tell you there's an expense to it, right? But, I have a client in Montana and he just installed them and it's beautiful and it's amazing. And we were talking, he's like, this is the greatest thing because everyone can handle it through their phone. They know when the unit's locked. If we know it's unlocked, then we can close it. We know when they've gone in, how long they spent there. It allows them the opportunity, especially if there's a concern of theft, they know what is going on. Now, if someone leaves the unit open and it doesn't get closed, you don't know how many people go in and out unless you have a camera. Most facilities do. But those are great things to be able to do. I mean, to be able to have access, to what is going on, it's key, right? I think, that is one of the biggest things. But a zero loss, it's not going to happen. I mean, these programs exist and they have for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years because life happens. But what you can do is when you have those, I will tell you from ours, it's not like someone's going to get a better rate. Anybody who says, hey, we're going to pay you more because you have this, they would have paid that number regardless if you had it or not. What they're doing is they're just trying to make what they seem more valuable. And it's all wordplay. But when it comes down to it, you are going to have, the best facility I've ever met as far as loss still had, from a protection side, still had 35% to 40% loss. And on the insurance side, still had 10 to 15% loss. Why? Because life happens. You can't cause it. In Pennsylvania, we had a rare tornado hit, knocked out part of a facility. We had a client that had 25 burglaries in 3 stores, right? They're just stuff that happens, right? In protection, I just had someone have the craziest amount of rodent loss that he's ever had, and come to find out a guy 5 units down had a pallet of cereal in his unit. You know what I mean? So like you have these outside obstacles and you're still dealing with humans. So, it goes to show you can't really control it, but what you can do are take certain precautions. Getting in with these programs, though, this is why it's important to have some type of valuable and strong coverage because, you're protecting yourself, your facility, and you're making sure that your tenants that had nothing to do with someone else's ignorance, you're able to make them whole.
Yeah, and let's connect a couple dots, right? Like, and Cassie's coming on to ask a question, so hold that question, Cassie. I'm gonna go right there. Actually, no, go ahead, Cassie. I'll hold my question. I know exactly what I want to ask. You go first, Cassie.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Have a good question here from Craig Stern. He asked, what is the most amount of coverage you would offer, Damon?
So with protection, we can go as high as $15,000 worth of coverage. With insurance, they'll go as high as 20, although, it comes down to what you're getting out of it. I will say it's a great question because it's one that I go back and forth on. History of doing this as long as I have, and the average types of loss. We all have the random person. Like I have a guy that used to store high-end cars, but he was like, I also keep things in the cars. And he was like, how high can I go? And I'm like, well, what do you what are you putting in the vehicle, right? Or what do you, so we will go as high as $15,000. There are some specialty coverages. I'm going to say there's 2 companies maybe right now that offer a little bit higher specialty coverage. I can talk to you later on that kind of stuff to go over it. One, I'm not so trusting of, and the other one, I think they're just building it out, so there's holes. But typically you're going to be, if you can get up to $15,000, what you're looking at is contents. So even if it's a vehicle in a unit, right? Someone breaks the windshield, it can take care of the windshield. This policy can cover that. You don't have to go through your own deductible. What if you have inside? What if it's electronics inside of it? Things that don't typically get covered if it's a vehicle are catalytic converters. What if it's a house? So most of unless it's high-end, rugs, Rolex watches, stuff like that typically need their own specialty insurance, you're going to have that anyways. Art. Some programs will cover art. The problem with art is even the ones that say we cover high-end art. Well, okay, let's first, and I would say this, ask them what is not covered under the art coverage, because that tells you everything. And when you start reading it, you can go, anything that could go wrong is not covered. And stuff that I don't even know why would be. So understand that when you're looking at it. But again, with us, we cover up to $15,000.
That's great. And I want to go back to the question I had earlier. So if I'm an owner operator, right, I know I can't have zero loss. I know I can't, the rodents eating the cereal or the tornado coming through, that I never thought. But what are the top 5 areas, right? Here are the 5 areas of loss, right? Pretty common. And here are the things that you could do to mitigate it. Maybe it's they're breaking the locks. Okay, then I probably need to look at my locks. Maybe my gate isn't working as well. Like, you help me understand, like, to connect the dots as an owner operator. Like, I want to help my tenants not get into as many areas losses. It's going to happen, but tell me those top areas of loss and the top mitigation things I can do as an owner on site to help.
So I will tell you, your number 1 is either going to be water or rodent.
Okay.
And then number 3 close 3 would be theft. And then I would say your top 4 is really the key, and it'd be fire and smoke. Now, the thing with water that's interesting is most homeowners policies do not have water listed in their coverages. Now, I've seen all types of numbers. We've had companies say, well, 60% of all policies don't have them, 70. I would say somewhere between 85 and 92% of all homeowners or rental policies do not have in their off-residence coverage water. Now, what is water? We only have a couple companies in our industry that cover flood. There's even gaps in the flood coverage, but even if it covers $1,000, that's big. But we also have, what does it look like? What does a water coverage look like? Well, that's a biggie, right? I've had people, like for instance, for us, HVAC is a biggie in the insurance world. If you have HVAC, it makes you feel comfortable because you look at it and go, well, HVAC is a great thing. Like that, that's part of everything within the upper area for coverage. The problem with HVAC is also a question of, well, whose fault is it? Is it the company that installed it? Is it the owner operator for not maintaining it, or is it simply a covered loss? Why? Because that's how insurance works. It is, what is this? How is it? We got to go to the letter of the law. Whereas when we look at it, you look at it you take a step back. If HVAC is listed, HVAC is covered. It doesn't matter whose fault, it's HVAC as part of the loss. So I wanted to get away from all that. So we went with just a pure broken pipe coverage. Why? Because broken pipe is all encompassing. Broken pipe is HVAC. It's a bad thread, a cracked thread, a bad pipe, a cracked pipe. It's things like these. So that's how, when you're looking at these types of losses with water, that's what you're looking for. How is your loss and your coverage of loss? How is it worded? How is it listed? What am I getting for it? With fire, this is another one. I tell stories, I know, but we had a guy who should not have been, but was doing work on his 4-wheeler in a unit, was doing something with the engine, revved it, finished whatever he was doing. I was watching this on a video. Closed the unit, and as he closes the unit, he doesn't notice at the bottom corner, you actually on the video see smoke coming up. He leaves. 10 minutes later, smoke is just all out of the unit. The manager is running, trying to get in. Something happened with the four-wheel, caused a fire, a lot of smoke, ended up affecting 3 units in the building. So stuff like that, I mean, you can't really control, but what you can have is just the right sprinklers. You can have the right fire, retention, all those types of things. Rodent, obviously fences are key. Cameras, do not skimp. If I can give anybody when it comes to theft, do not skimp on cameras. Something that I think is amazing though is OpenTech has this, and I'm going to get this wrong, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I got this wrong, but it's I think it's Eagle Eye, I believe, or it's the eye, but it's an amazing. A friend of mine in Ohio has this. He had 32 burglaries, and he got this, and it literally cut all the burglaries out because it was able to detect. And it's a great feature to have when you are coming into trying to fight off areas of burglary. I have a guy down in Louisiana who's had 15 burglary losses, and it's just because he can't get the right company to come out and install. He finally got a gate installed, and he has a sensor so he can know what's going on coming in and out. Stuff like that, your readers for your driver's license or license plate, driver's license, all those kind of things. Putting in sensors, the Noki system, I really do think the Noki system is a great system. There are some amazing setups, some systems that are coming out though, that are tech driven, that you can access through your phone. Yep. Companies like StorePass, great things where you can access your entire facility. They're not really security, but they do give you great access that these other programs will connect into. So things like that I think are great when it comes to theft. And then rodent, I mean, listen, I've seen mice can get through a quarter-sized hole, so they're going to come in. So are raccoons. I had a guy in Jersey that every Tuesday, he was right next to a farm. He would go out and go groundhog hunting and raccoons because they had tore up the back of his facility, and the farmer said, you can come shoot whatever you want. So there are things that can happen, but you can take great, hiring pest control companies are really important. The right pest control company, I guess I should say.
Oh, that's really helpful. I mean, I'm sure some of the owners are like, oh, great, I'm going to have to get into the raccoon hunting, but okay, here we go. Right. So different types of for each.
That was a little unnerving. I walked into the meeting, there was 5 rifles in the corner, and I'm like, I'm at the wrong spot. Should I leave? And I'm pro gun. Like, I'm not anti-gun, but like, I was like, why would someone, like, don't say the wrong thing, Damon.
Yeah, no, I get it. And then you'd start, the story unravels because it's water, fire, theft, and pest. And here we go. It's all through these mitigation, right? And you're looking at different ways to mitigate it, whether it's sprinklers for the fire or you're literally hunting raccoons. But you want to figure out where you put your time, money, effort as you protect. Because when that claim comes, the cameras, right? Obviously, I'm super biased because we're video people. Because everyone has one of these beautiful things in their pocket, right? So you can have a closed stuff, but I can also get it right there up front. We'll do it presentation later on the demo for 5 minutes of what we have. But I do think we look through the different areas of mitigation, the top areas of loss, and then the other things, tornado comes through, there's pretty much, it is what it is. Things are going to happen. And hence why protection is needed for your tenants and protect that brand reputation, work on that customer experience. And, what are we missing here? Any other things you want to add before I bring Cassidy back up? We're going to do some Q&A from the audience.
Anybody who's looking for stuff like this, it's always tough to just kind of have a quick conversation. There's many moving parts. I don't think I've had the same conversation twice ever with this. And we covered a couple things that I've gone into a little bit more depth than I normally do. Owner operators that are looking to get into these types of programs, just give me a couple minutes on this one. There are things that you have to be careful of. I've been doing this a long time, and it's been amazing to me how the industry has evolved when it comes to insurance and protection. And it's still a forgotten piece, but it's an important piece, and people are starting to see the importance from the value proposition. I mean, I'll tell you, revenue is great, but what a program like this can do to your bottom line is even more important, especially when you have the concern of inflation or recession, like just words that just scare us, right? So when you have programs like this and you're looking to refinance or you're looking to buy another piece of land, like you have these revenue pieces, or you're looking to sell, you have people that will buy if you are 80%, not because you're 80% penetrated with protection, but it's nice to see that revenue because we are one of the only programs where it costs practically nothing to start and all you do is make revenue. Now, with that being said, I wrote on my whiteboard, there's just certain things that I think are important, but I have been trying since I came into this side of the industry 2 years ago to make change. One thing with tenant protection, it doesn't have a great history, but it doesn't have a great history because of moments, not because of the product. Companies do what companies do. And with protection, people just need to understand what their responsibility. Yes, there are protection programs that put the responsibility sole at the feet of the owner operator. And that's what most people go back to. They don't get it. Yes, there are protection programs where they will pay you a lot of money, high percentage back. And you are going to be responsible for working with the tenant, possibly paying claims, possibly having to set up a fund to pay that claim, be in the face of a claim, working on making decisions if a claim is approved or denied. If that's something you want to do and you're willing to go through with it, then more power to you. That's not a negative. That's understandable. I get it. You want to do that because the value and the revenue is so important. CubeSmart was only doing insurance for years. Guess what they do now? In almost all of their stores, or a high percentage, they are now doing tenant protection. Why? Because they want it for the revenue. They have investors. It's all about the bottom line, right? But be careful, because not all protection is that way. And as you've seen with me, like, you have protection programs, we're willing to take the onus off of the owner's shoulders. I don't want an owner to be part of making a decision, because unless they've gone through what I've gone through, or they've been licensed, or they've seen this, they don't know what to do and they will get themselves in trouble. So, and for the record, an insurance company says, well, risk of liability. You have risk of liability with insurance as well, because some of the same risk can happen. It's just more of a transfer of risk process. That's not a lie. That is fact. But right here, it says, do not sign a long-term contract just for a payout. We have companies in our industry that are going to people and saying, we will pay you this exorbitant amount of money, but all you have to do is sign a long-term agreement. The reason I think this is a negative is it's a trap. And what do I mean by that? I've heard stories where people are not having claims paid suddenly. They are not getting the same service. They don't like who they're dealing with all of a sudden. Things have changed. And guess what? They can't get out of that contract because there's a no easy way out. There's no opt-out clause. It is, here's the contract. You signed 3 years. We agreed to pay you. You have to pay set amount of money. And it's not a small amount. It's 6 figures or more in a lot of cases if you have a few stores. So be careful when you're looking at these agreements. If someone wants you to sign a long-term, that same amount of revenue will be there at a 1-year contract or a 3. If you get a contract, make sure it has a 60-day opt-out. I will tell you now, with me, if someone wants to leave, they're going to have a 60-day no matter what. I have one person who requested a 2-year contract, and the reason I said, well, you don't really have to, and they said, no, I don't want to have this discussion again for 2 years. It makes it easy. But I said, fine, there's a 60-day opt-out though. Why? Because if you want to get out of this, you'll have 60 days and you can get out. Because if you don't want to work with us, you shouldn't be forced. Do not allow a company, just because of money, force you to have to stay with them. You have companies that have non-competes. There was a company in the industry, they no longer have this, I hope, but hey, listen, if you ever want to leave us, you can't sign with another company for the next 3 years. I mean, stupid. They couldn't hold up in law. Indemnifications, you need to make sure that the company is holding you harmless. It's a win-win on both sides. You need to make sure that, no, not all protection is going to change your lease. So understand that. If someone tells you they're going to make you change your entire lease, that is not the truth. And then the other one is never allow a vendor to become an admin to access your software. Software is important. The fact that you have large software companies that make vendors or make insurance and protection programs pay a monthly fee to work on their platform. Listen, do we all like paying? No one really does, but it's respectful and it's their software and that's what they require, and God bless them and I appreciate them for it. And I am fortunate that there are companies who have allowed me, yes, we pay a fee, but they've allowed me to work with their software, and I am forever grateful. Some companies have found end arounds to where they will become the admin as a way to end around having to pay a monthly fee, stuff like that. If a company's asking you to do more than you think and it doesn't seem right, second guess it, because there are right and wrong. Just understand what you're getting into. And for God's sakes, read your agreement. The amount of people that I have talked to that said, I don't even know what my agreement said, is shameful.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say, I always like to share, because there are frustrating things that are going on now. And I think it has to be stopped. Like, there are a lot of facilities. There are still probably 30,000 storage facilities who are offering nothing currently. And I apologize. I have a bit of a lisp. I have Invisalign on. I have Invisalign on my teeth. I just caught myself. So I just caught myself with a lisp. So I'm very sorry.
No worries.
I'm very sorry. I took on a lot more time than I thought, but I just think it's important.
Price of admission, right? And for everyone's awareness, like, we don't pay Damon anything at all. We wanted to have Damon on the webinar here today for you guys to hear that last bit. So the soapbox that you were standing on, like, read your agreement. No long-term contracts. Like, look out for those back doors. These are the warning signs that Damon from front row experience has seen owners get into or operators get into, and it stinks. And we don't want to see that happen, which is why we do these educational series. I'm going to ask Cassie to come back up. If you have any questions, if you're in the audience right now, please put those questions. We'll probably do 2 of them because we want to wrap up on time. But Cassie, a couple of quick questions for Damon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I will pick the first 2 that were submitted here. Number 1, Damon, if a tenant files a claim with Storage Shield, how long does it take to get approved, get info to the adjuster, and get the tenant paid on average?
The goal, I will tell you, is always 3 to 5 weeks. 1 to 3 weeks is start to finish the decision making. It usually goes quicker than that, and then 1 to 2 weeks to have a check cut. Typically, the way it works is we'll know within a week and a half to 2, and then 7 to 10 we can have a check cut. But I will tell people 3 to 5.
Got it. That's great. Thank you. Second question here says, I'd like to pick your brain with all of your experience with owners and operators, Damon. You mentioned top reasons for claims, and one of them was theft, which we obviously run into. Do you have any owners or operators you work with who are doing a good job at reducing theft? If so, how are they doing it?
Yeah, I feel bad for this. We have just an amazing client in Louisiana, and it was kind of frustrating. They had some burglary, but the area that they were, the company, they had, I want to say 6 companies that were scared to death to come work on installation of a gate. And because of just the area. And you hate hearing that, but we talked to them and they were on top of listen, we're doing what we can, but they went out, they got the gate, they actually did barbed wire on the fence. That was a good one. We had one gentleman who just added another 15 cameras. And what he wanted to do, the camera layout was great, like, end of each building, you have one in the middle, and it was able to grasp. But what he realized, and he only had one instance, and it ended up being an inside job, they learned, but he put cameras in the back. And I'm telling you, everybody needs to talk to OpenTech about this. And I want to say it's Eagle Eye, and Bob Hazlitt's going to be so mad at me that I screwed that one up. But he talked to him. He's great, but they have a really good deterrent with that piece of equipment. So I think those kind of things, tools are great. And yeah, they have and I'll spend as much time as anybody wants going over what I've seen and what I know and connecting you with the right vendors. I mean, I've been doing this a long time now. So, but yeah, those are a couple examples of things that I've seen.
Love it. Cassie, if you don't mind giving me control so I can share screen, just for everyone's awareness, we like to spend the first part of the webinar today just to talk through everything Damon shared, do some Q&A. If you do have questions that we didn't get to, Damon's easy to get to. Just go to storageshield.com, you'll go right to him. We'll get you questions. And what we're going to do now is a quick presentation on live switch. So if you're here for the educational side, that is over. If you want to stay a little bit longer to see technology, we're going to do that right now. We can always get requested for it, so that's why we're going to do it. And Damon, I know you're going to pipe in as well because you've got some thoughts around a live switch as well. So Cassidy, if you're able to make me that presenter, I'll go ahead and start.
I think sharing. You made me the presenter, Cassie, so I'm going to exit.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Thank you for letting me know. James, good to go now. Apologies.
No, it's okay. All right.
And so
So,
everybody knows, like, I thought this was important when we were talking. It was very funny when James came to me and said, hey, I really want to do a webinar. I've been enjoying learning. And him and I have been talking about a lot of different things. And I'm trying to get, because I believe in what he's about to show. And I think it's important for our industry. But it was funny. I had made the comment, I'm like, really, man, we should time this. And, you need to present, like, you need to show some of what you're doing. And he's like, well, it just so happens that's kind of what I would like to do with this. So, like, it was perfect. I was like, okay, this is right minds thinking alike right here.
I love it. I love it. So this is great. So Damon's he's gonna pipe in as we walk through a couple of these things. So there's two things for LiveSwitch that all of our self-storage companies are buying, right? Product one is called LiveSwitch Contact. I want you to think of text to connect, video Dropbox, and instant recording. You can literally text any number. I'm going to text my own number here. I know it's not ideal, but text most any number globally. I'll put in the customer's name. In this case, it's myself. But you can send a quick text from your team. It can be a facility manager, the owner. It can come from a call center, a salesperson, whatever. And they can send a text message, and there's nothing to download. So it doesn't matter if you're PC, Mac, iPhone, Android, iPad. There's no download. You click the send text button. So what this is going to do, I happen to be in Google Chrome. My phone is going to get a text here. I just put in my number, and so I'm going to open that up. Here comes a text. Just got it. And I know it'll be a little awkward because I'm acting as the storage company and the customer all in one, but that's okay. So I click the text. If I'm the customer, it's going to ask me allow the camera. No problem. Camera allowed. And I'm going to pop up on this screen, and I need to mute everything. So now you can see me talking to me, but if I'm the self-storage, hey, what's going on? Well, I just experienced some theft. Well, why don't you show that to me? Okay, they stole all of my books off the shelf there. I'm missing a bunch of books and things there. So I'm recording all this, and I can say, hey, let me take a picture of that theft or that rodent damage or the water damage. In fact, I was talking to an owner who uses this. They're 8 hours away from their facility, and they had a leak in the roof. And they had a customer, they sent a text to the customer because the customer, the tenant, they called, they're like, hey, it's leaking. He was able to video all of the leak, take pictures, right? And then after that, so I can hang up here, after that, they were able to share the video with their contractor. And the contractor's like, oh, I can tell it's a leak in the roof. I'll be out there immediately. And he got the leak fixed, and he didn't have to hop in the car for 8 hours.
I think that's such an amazing feature, like from a claim standpoint, especially like for us to be able to be, from a distance, having a tenant, you send them a link and, it's just not the tenant, not the manager. Like, hey, listen, do me a favor. Well, I'm not at the unit. Okay. And if, we had a manager we were talking to, because you and I have talked about doing beta tests, and we have a couple of managers. One especially was like, well, honestly, I would do that for a tenant. And it's like, well, yeah, it's a great tool because it gives you direct access without having to have someone front and center. And in today's world where remote has become so pivotal to everything, from a claims standpoint, it's nice to have, but even from a managed facility. You have a management company, oh my God, to be able to have on video, to be able to have a tenant being able to go to the unit, see stuff, walk them through. Hey, listen, here's what you're going to do. Hey, where's my unit? What do I do? Hey, I can't get into this lock. How does the code work? Like, you know what I mean? Like, these are, you have these. Here's where this is important, right? We have a certain company in our industry that touts technology and it's all about, access, and you need managers, and you do need managers. I think managers are the lifeblood of everything that is self-storage. And I love remote, but you still have people. Like remote, that's what people don't understand. Just because it's remote, you still have someone who takes on a managerial role. Like you still have a live person. Like at some point, maybe it's only a few times, but we have this tech company that's charging people, well, we're going to put a video camera in the facility, and then we're going to put a big walk-up, and you're going to have a robot that talks to you, and they're going to say hello and do all these things, and it's only going to cost you $32,000 plus, and then all of a sudden it's like, I think I'm looking at a really huge bill, but you're made to feel like, well, of course you're spending this money because you're special. Where you could have something like this that is talk about a game changer of all game changers. It's something that I think in the future every self-storage facility is going to need, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we're seeing, right? And Sherwin knows I don't pay Damon to say any of this stuff. We literally have just met each other, talked through the different things that we do for self-storage. And a couple other things that we do is you can put QR code on site. So here is one of my customers here, Jonah from Smart Lock. He was walking me around one of his facilities in Missouri. He has these QR codes up around the facility. Well, this particular QR code, if you scan it, it can say, hey, see something, say something. Hey, you're moving out of a unit. Let me see your clean out. Or if maintenance comes by, scan this. They scan it, up pops a form. And if I'm a tenant, I can say, hey, this is James Hatfield. I'm in unit 12345 in Missouri, and I'm doing my clean out. And I just do my video, and the video goes right into the Dropbox, and I can review that. So that's the second way, video Dropbox. Third way is I can put it in my hand. My facility managers or my staff, they literally can just click a button and instantly start recording from their phone. So I just bring up my phone. I'm logged in. Same thing you see on my computer, you see on my phone. I'm a facility manager. Let's say I've got an auction. I need to cut the lock and I need to take a video. I literally just hit the little record button and nothing is stored on this phone. It's going right to the cloud, right? Because the big videos just are hard to, and I don't want to upload it later. It's literally, I'm recording right now to the cloud. And I can say, this is the lock. Here's all the contents. Record everything. I can do the same thing. I'm a facility manager and there's a leak or there's a tenant issue or a claim or rodent, fire, everything we've been talking about today. Just go take a video and then send it over to your claims manager over at Storage Shield, right? And those conversations right in here, and here's the video, right? Here's the video I just took. Here's the pictures I took of my wall while you guys were watching me. I can just copy this recording of the video and I can take pictures of it to send to Damon, give him the video of what we're looking at, and get it right to them. And we're rocking.
And what I love is this work, like whoever you use for marketing. Like I'm fortunate, like I use FindView Marketing and they have made my life a million times easier. And I just love working with them in general. I've known them a long time, but like they've done a lot. Your marketing company, what you do can just work seamlessly with what they need to do to get it set up on your website, wherever you need it. Like you work seamlessly with, like you're not, today's day and age, it's, well, are you integrated? Are you this? Are you that? There's all these concerns about like, am I allowed to work with this, right? This is tech. Can I? You have made yourself available and created this in a way that, all right, well, what's your back end? How do we do this? Okay, yeah, this is what we can do, right? You've made it available so everybody has access. You're not pigeonholing, and I love that.
That's right. That's exactly right. And the other thing that we're doing, last couple things, I know I don't want to run over on the clock, but the other product we have is called Live Switch Concierge. You can put your agents, your facility managers, you as an owner, you go online, you're ready to rock. And there's two ways that these, and we're going to make a third one I'll talk about, that these calls come in. So I just met with Storebox in the UK about an hour ago and have a beacon right on the site, right? A customer can come in, put in their info, and as an agent, maybe I'm even a third-party manager. I'm getting a ping now. I'm getting a text. You've got a customer on your website getting ready to ask questions. Okay, I will join that, right? No longer do you need Zoom or Google or any of that stuff. That's not nonsense. They're great tools. But we are now putting this right on your site. So a customer can't decide what size unit do I need, or are you air conditioning, or I've got this boat. Well, they can just walk right out and show you the boat, and they can do this right on. I can, as an agent, share my screen. I can go through a lease agreement, and I'm just meeting them right there from the bell. So that's a bell to connect. The next thing that we do, and I think I showed this just a second ago. Again, this is Jonah at Smart Lock, one of my newest customers. He puts QR codes up for live meetings. So I can come in and create a QR code. Let's say I'm in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm outside the building, right? I can just create this QR code and download it and print it, put it on the wall. I can put it on the door. We're always open, and a customer can come and just scan this, goes right to me, and hey, it looks like you're on the outside. Because we're seeing a lot of people going contactless, touchless, or managing more sites with less people. This is allowing that. You can put this in your chat. You can put this on there. And the next thing that we're going to come out with is called a big red button, where literally it's not out yet, but you can just buy an iPad or a tablet and bolt it to the floor, and then it'll look just like this. You tap the button and up pops the agent. And this is all done at a fraction of the cost. We're talking about everything you're seeing here, minimum package for 2 users. We do users, not facilities. You're looking at $2,880 a year for 2 agents. And the more agents you add, the more it goes up. But that's the entry price, and you're getting all this functionality, text to connect, QR to connect, bell to connect, instant recordings and all of that. And so that's what we do. Damon, I don't know if there's anything else you want to close us with here. I know we're right at time, but we wanted to show off the technology as well.
No, this was great. I appreciate the time. Anybody has any questions, feel free. I think you'll put my contact here at the end, or when it goes out, when you're sharing it. But guys, this was great. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'm here for any questions anybody has. I definitely believe live switch. If you're looking at tech, I think it's important to check out what James and his team are doing.
Yeah, Damon, thank you so much. A lot of good golden nuggets today that we all, especially don't sign the long-term contract. I won't forget that one. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for joining.
Bye-bye now.